get these rainfalls repeatedly, increasingly year after year, with warm temperatures and a lot of garbage being washed out from the estuaries, this can lead to these events more frequently.
I'm sure it'll be just as big of a culture shock for them to see a band as big as we are, as it will be for us to see all of the monuments that they drive past on their way to work.
So let me get right to the point. I don't pop my cork for every guy I see.
I mean, big spender, come on, you could just spend all night watching that network.
Hello and welcome to University Beat. I'm Denise White. There's a mystery out in the Gulf of Mexico and some USF scientists are working to solve it. Over the summer, divers about 100 miles off the Texas coast noticed dying marine life on a coral reef that is usually colorful and vibrant. The area is known as the East Flower Garden Bank Reef and is part of the protected National Marine Sanctuary. Divers saw a white coating on the coral, and they said the normally crystal clear water had become murky. About 10% of the coral, sponges, and other life on the reef has died. USF Marine researchers are part of a team trying to determine the cause. One theory, heavy spring rains along the Texas and Louisiana coast caused an unusually large amount of fresh water to enter the Gulf, and high winds then pushed that water out to the coral reef.
So fresh water will sit on top of salt water, and right in between there was a sandwich of very low oxygen water that moved offshore, literally over 100 miles, and that washed over these coral reef areas. It washed over only some of the coral reef areas, but it's like a finger of low oxygen, and the communities on the bottom, the coral reefs, the sponges, the urchins, suffocated, they asphyxiated. On top of that, because it's a freshwater plume loaded with sediment, these organisms got smothered. And the question is, if we get these rainfalls repeatedly, increasingly year after year, with warm temperatures and a lot of garbage being washed out from the estuaries, this can lead to these events more frequently. And so that's the fear. They have been extremely rare in the past. Will they be more frequent in the future?
A second team of USF scientists is looking into another environmental issue, this one closer to home. Heavy rain from last month's Hurricane Hermine overwhelmed a sewage treatment plant in St. Petersburg. Millions of gallons of partially treated sewage ended up in Tampa Bay and other local waterways. What is the potential threat to public health? USF biologists are analyzing water samples from affected areas to find out. Hedel Gandhi reports.
Suzanne Young is getting to know the waterways of Pinellas County well. She has been collecting samples of water and soil after heavy rains overwhelmed aging sewage systems, causing wastewater to bubble up through manholes and to be released into creeks and bays. 2 years ago, Young was part of a USF research team that took samples after an underground pipe broke near Pinellas Park, leaking raw sewage into the ground and a creek that feeds into Boca Ciega Bay. Lab tests from that site showed a strain of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, something usually found only in hospital waste.
The antibiotics and the antibiotic-resistant bacteria can enter residential sewage if people are taking antibiotics, if you are what we call colonized with these resistant bacteria, you can release them into the sewer system. And a lot of that is coming from the widespread use of certain antibiotics.
Lansing Park, just south of downtown St. Petersburg, is one of the areas where samples are being tested by USF for antibiotic-resistant strains. The city posted warning signs after the summer spills dumped millions of gallons of wastewater into Tampa Bay. Rob Razika, who lives near the park, checks with the city of St. Petersburg for updates on water conditions before he and his pets enjoy time in the water.
We actually don't know if it's completely healthy or not. You know, we are taking things at their word, so there certainly could still be a risk. but hopefully with tidal flushing and other things and natural breakdown of the bacteria, hopefully it is safe to be in there. The concern is that my dogs would get sick or that I would get sick, either through some type of cut on our skin, and the water would be contaminated with either fecal coliforms or something else. So the main thing is getting sick. Obviously there's some concerns to the wildlife as well too.
Jay Wynn enjoys fishing here when he has a day off work, but when the caution signs are up, he doesn't bother. He knows he won't want to eat any of the fish he catches.
The water just kind of messed up. It's not right. I don't really do too much of it, but when I do, I like to make sure that everything is all right.
Yes, it can make you sick. We still don't really know the real risks of exposure in recreational water.
The results of the most recent tests are not yet in, but USF biologists will share them with the public and St. Petersburg officials when they are available. For University Beat, I'm Hedel Gandhi.
You may remember a USF student we told you about earlier this year named Mary Lumapas. Mary, who has beaten cancer 3 times, was in kidney failure and needed a transplant. So she took to social media looking for a donor. The campaign was called Share Your Spare, and it worked. A Manatee County man who did not know Mary saw a news report about her plight and volunteered. Mary received her donated kidney last Thursday, and doctors say her recovery is going well. This week in USF history, how the school got its name. On October 22, 1957, the Florida Cabinet approved the name University of South Florida, in part because at the time, that's what we were, the southernmost state university in Florida. That has since changed, but we decided to keep the name. And in October of 2007, USF renamed its ROTC building to honor then Congressman Bill Young, who died in 2013. USF is one of only 38 universities nationwide to have all 3 ROTC programs, Army, Navy, and Air Force. The Bill Young Building also is home to the nation's first Joint Military Leadership Center. USF athletics are getting a big boost from 2 longtime supporters. Jeffrey and Brandy Fishman are donating $1.45 million through their Fishman Family Foundation. The money will be used in part to renovate the Student Athlete Enrichment Center. It's located in the Leroy Selman Athletics Center. The gift will also support athletic scholarships. The USF Bulls won again, defeating Connecticut 42-27. The victory pushed the Bulls' record to 6-1 and made the team bowl eligible for the 2nd year in a row. It also kept alive USF's national leading streak of scoring at least 35 points in 11 straight games.
Follows a blocker, gets to the 20, down the sideline to the 10. That is one of the great runs in USF football history. Touchdown USF.
Coach Willie Taggart's high-powered offense is not the only show on the field at USF football games. They also feature the Herd of Thunder, USF's marching band. Band members now have what for many of them will be the opportunity of a lifetime. For the 2nd time in the past 4 years, they'll be spending New Year's Day overseas, this time in Rome. Mark Schreiner reports.
In January 2013, the USF Herd of Thunder marched in front of more than 500,000 people at the New Year's Day parade in London, England. Almost immediately afterwards, the organizers of the event, who also arranged talent for the New Year's parade in Rome, wanted to know when the Bulls could return to march in Italy.
So everywhere the Herd of Thunder goes, people are taking notice of the musicality, of the energy, of the enthusiasm of our students. And we're really, really happy to be representing our band, our School of Music, our university, our state, and even our country over in Rome.
As band officials found out when they went to London, it takes a lot of preparations to get 135 musicians, their instruments, and uniforms halfway around the world.
We're taking 22 sousaphones, about 15 flags, a whole drum line. Most of the instruments will actually be sent over a couple weeks before we get there and won't be sent back to back. But we've got to We've got to weigh them. We've got to make sure we have all the cases in working order. We've got to send over all the uniforms. We've got to send over all the equipment. It's a massive undertaking.
Bands the size of the Herd of Thunder are extremely unusual in Europe, making the group's trip exciting for both them and their audience.
I'm sure it'll be just as big of a culture shock for them to see a band as big as we are, as it will be for us to see all of the monuments that they drive past on their way to work. So it'll just be an exchange of culture between the two of us.
The Herd will also perform at a street fair in the small town of Frascati and in a Catholic cathedral in Rome.
We're putting together a smaller wind ensemble that's not quite the size of a marching band, and we're playing more wind ensemble music, so that'll be really awesome to get to play in that sort of setting when we're on a marching band trip.
And one of the biggest honors will come when the band performs in St. Peter's Square, right in front of the Vatican.
We're in the process of putting together everything from Ave Maria to Nesum Dorma, and so we have to pick sacred tunes that the Italian people will recognize.
Band members, along with members of the color guard that accompanies them, are looking forward to not just performing, but also seeing a foreign country.
Going out of the country for the first time, I'm half Italian, so being able to go over there kind of back to where my roots are. And so being able to, try the foods, see all the different monuments and everything, so it's gonna be really awesome.
The biggest thing I'm looking forward to is going to a new country, especially with marching band. I've never been to Rome before, so this is gonna be a first, and I'm going with some of my closest friends in Guard. And it's just going to be like an amazing experience to see all the history, and I don't know, it's just going to be great altogether.
Since the whole band is not making the trip, there will be enough Herd members left to play at any bowl game the Bulls football team gets invited to. But for many of the students, they won't even consider missing the trip of a lifetime.
I never imagined that I would be able to go to Rome with the Herd of Thunder. When I signed up for it, I figured maybe we would go to like a bowl game trip that was still in the state, but I never thought that we would be able to go overseas. So that's a really awesome experience that I'm super excited for.
I don't know, it just feels like such an honor to be able to go over there and represent not only the University of South Florida, but America, like the United States, being able to go over there and almost be like a form of ambassador over there, kind of getting to play in other countries and interact with people.
For University Beats, I'm Mark Schreiner.
If there's a story about the University of South Florida you'd like to see us cover, you can reach us via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching University Beat TV. USF School of Theater and Dance is in its final rehearsals for its second production of the fall season. This one features a story by Neil Simon and some songs you'll no doubt recognize.
You walked in the joint, I could see you were a man of distinction, a real big spender, good looking, so refined.
Well, Sweet Charity is about a girl who believes in love, and it's set in the mid-1960s. It's based on a film by Fellini called The Knights of Cabiria, about a young woman who goes through a lot of turmoil just looking for love, and she never loses her optimism and her hope. And so the story is set in New York in the mid-60s when things were not particularly beautiful. She works in a dance hall, so she dances with men for money and ends up meeting several men along the way, one of whom is an accountant whom she ends up falling in love with. And it's just sort of a fairy tale of this girl who, in spite of everything, in the face of a harsh and difficult world, never loses her belief in love and just radiates optimism.
If they could see me now that they're getting up, I'm the fancy child drinking fancy wine, and I will stumble lungs to keep more effect than kind of top drawer first drink.
I feel like she's such a lovable person, and she's someone that I feel like all of us kind of want to be like, someone that's really hopeful and that loves love and never gives up. I feel like that's been the most fun part of like exploring this character, like exploring that side of me, the side of that's really, really hopeful and that believes in love like 100%, like she never gives up. So I feel like that's been the most exciting part.
And what has been the biggest challenge for this role for you?
I would say the exact same thing. Like tapping into that, it can be really challenging when I get there, like it's fun, but actually like really tapping into being her like wholeheartedly and like putting my all 100% because that's who she is. Like she gives everything all the time. So I think it's both like the most exciting part and the most difficult part as well.
Well, I think Sweet Charity is a play that combines two things in the musical theater. It's got big production numbers, it's got a lot of showbiz, but it's also got a really great story. And so it plays like a play, and you connect to this woman, you really follow through her trials and tribulations and connect to her emotionally and psychologically. And at the same time, there's some wonderful big splashy numbers and some big singing and some wonderful dancing. So I think it's very, very entertaining, but it also has a really strong heart that everybody can connect to.
So let me get right to the point. I don't pop my cork for every guy I see. Hey, big spender, spend a little time with
I mean, big spender, come on, you could just spend all night watching that number.
Sweet Charity opens October 27th in Theater 2 on the Tampa campus. You can get showtime information at the school's website, arts.usf.edu, or by calling the box office at 813-974-2323. Marc Powers is the director of the USF School of Theater and Dance, and he joins us now on University Beat, and welcome.
Thank you.
Well, Sweet Charity is a well-known show, but this fall, the school also put on Mathematics of Love.
Yes.
And so it got me thinking, how do you decide what productions to do?
It's a challenge. You know, there isn't really a formula for it. If there was, we'd be a science instead. But no, I mean, we try to do a balance of things that the audience has heard of, so that we'll hopefully draw more people in to see things, and hopefully they'll see that and they'll go, oh, well, what else is the school doing? And for me, often the other things are the more exciting ones because they're more challenging. They're challenging students' ideas about things. They may be more difficult technically to do, or it may just be that they haven't been done enough and the student isn't sitting there thinking, how has this always been done, and what do I have to do? Instead it's, oh, nobody's ever done this before. I get to make the first choice. I get to be the one that puts the signature on how to play this role.
Yeah, because that helps in the development of the students' talents and skill.
Yes, because it's, what is in here is what the actor has to work with. That's it. You have this, and a lot of it is what's in the imagination, but the rest of it is what's in the experience that you have. And the more that you get to explore something that is divergent from the norm, the more is there to resonate, the more there to bring out in the work that you do.
What productions are planned for this school year?
Well, beyond these two, the next show will be Antigone, which is an old Greek drama. But this will not be that old Greek drama, because it'll be a brand new script that is done. Probably far more contemporary. I don't know all the answers to that, because the playwright and the director, who are our guests from the London stage, coming over and working for 8 weeks with the students, they're still working on crafting that play, and they will still be working on crafting it when the actors are working with them. So the students their voice will be included in what that final script is like.
What's the benefit of that kind of British collaboration for the students in the university?
There are multiple benefits to it. I think first is recognizing that there are different ways of approaching doing theater. And the British way and its history is significantly different than the American way and its history, both in the approach to acting as well as the approach to the craft of theater. But also, when you think about how, when you're working in the arts and in theater in particular, the kind of networking you do and who you get to know and who you get to work with and the potentials for what can happen after that become far greater. I know a lot of our students who have done the Brit productions have later, when they've visited in England, visited with those artists who were their mentors during the project when they were here, and they've allowed that connection to grow and to build, and that's fantastic.
You've gotten quite a few of your students to travel abroad.
Oh yeah.
To what countries?
Well, the theater students tends to be primarily English-speaking countries, like Scotland and England, and there've been some others down into some of the Caribbean islands as well. The dance students tend to travel a little bit more worldly because language is not a barrier to viewing a performance the same way. They've been working a lot in France and in Italy and in Tunisia and throughout the Caribbean and China. So yeah, they're heavily traveled.
USF is certainly recognized as a top-tier research university and nationally recognized business school. What about theater and dance? Where would you say USF School of Theater and Dance fits nationally?
We have to sort of look at both of those disciplines differently because theater and dance aren't always put together on a national level. But when it comes to theater, theater is a liberal arts program here, and it's an undergraduate-only liberal arts program. So when we compare it to other ones like that, we look very good. We're a solid program, and things like the British International Theater Program being a part of it, that adds a little bit more cachet to it. With dance is a BFA program predominantly here on this campus, a professional training program. And there are not as many of them in the country as there are theater programs. And it is looked at very highly regarded. Highly regarded enough that the American Ballet Theater wants to have a summer intensive done here, using some of our faculty and our facilities and everything else because they see our program as being a solid program.
Well, that's a big feather in your cap.
Yeah, it's a nice feather.
There's so much of an emphasis on, STEM classes, science, mathematics. Make the case for
STEAM
teaching.
Instead of STEM?
Yes.
Well,
make the case for the arts and supporting the arts.
Well, let's just take the idea of what's a STEM? It's a hollow tube. What's steam? It's energy. It's energy that's traveling through a hollow tube. So the arts are the energy that's traveling through the hollow tube of STEM. It is, we think about solving problems critically, creatively, collaboratively. Where do you find more of the creative and the collaborative?
The arts.
In the arts. So is there something to be learned by exploring the arts for somebody who is in the STEM areas? Definitely. It may well make their approach to what they do that much more powerful, that much more convincing, that much more innovative. Take away the arts and it becomes more mechanical.
Marc Powers, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us in University
My
Beat.
pleasure. Thank you.
If there's a story about USF you'd like to see us cover, or you want to share a comment about the show, you can reach us via the WUSF Public Media app. Just look for the Contact tab and write University Beat in the content line. You can also email us. The address is ubeat@wusf.org. Our website is universitybeattv.org. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find us by searching University Beat TV. And that's University Beat for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Denise White.